No.
You are so cute. Hi YouTube family, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a long time since I last uploaded and I have a very good reason for that. Before I get to that reason, this video is gonna be specially for the holiday that's coming up, which everybody knows is Mother's Day. So I just wanted to make this video because I am officially a new mom. That's why I've been away for some time now. I got pregnant, I had my baby, and I just wanted to make this video to talk to you guys about my experience. Basically like what I went through during my pregnancy, during my childbirth experience, and a little bit of what I went through after giving birth. I feel like there's not a lot of videos out there that talks about like pregnancy experience or even childbirth experiences. You know, people just go through it and kind of just, you know, keep it to themselves. So I wanted to share my experience with you guys. Hopefully it will resonate with somebody, you know, and maybe they will feel like they've gained a lot of information. Maybe they're able to decide and see if they want to have children, if they don't want to have children in the future, you know, just so that you guys can kind of relate to what I've been through. So stay tuned and I'll be right back. So let's get right into the video. Like I said, I wanted to talk to you guys about my pregnancy childbirth experience. So the one thing that I'm going to start with as far as my pregnancy experience, nausea and vomiting. This is a common symptom globally, like across the world. Like majority of women will definitely experience this at some point of their pregnancy. But I feel like mine was a little elevated. In the very beginning of my pregnancy, I didn't really have nausea like that. Maybe like a couple days, like here and there, not really vomiting and stuff like that. The thing that really kicked my butt in the beginning was just becoming randomly sleepy at different moments of the day. And it was like, I need to sleep. But I started experiencing nausea maybe about by the second month. So I will randomly get nauseous and things like that. But I was still able to eat pretty good, eat what I want and things like that. I would say by the third or fourth month is when it really got a little bit aggravating. I would eat different foods like fruits, the stuff that I would normally eat even before I was pregnant. But this time around, while being pregnant, food, I would have this feeling of like food like not digesting well, food like kind of lingering in my throat, chest area, the feeling of wanting to expel the food but it's not really coming out. It was just like lingering in there until maybe about the end of my fourth month going into my fifth month is when my vomiting became really serious, really aggressive. It was hard to keep stuff down. Not only did I experience vomiting, I also had like spitting symptoms. I would have to spit all the time. Like I wasn't able to swallow saliva because it would make me so nauseous. It would make me feel like I would want to throw up. Gagging, I would gag a lot, you know, things like that. So I think once it got to a point where it was, I think a couple times I had to go to the hospital because I was dehydrated. Wasn't able to keep anything down because I kept throwing up back to back, and when I would throw up, it would be so much. So I got worried a couple times, like, oh my God, like, is my baby okay? I've not been able to keep anything down. Like, you know, let me just go to the emergency room. So after going a couple times and then following up with a prenatal appointment, my doctor finally diagnosed me with HG. Let me get the actual full term. And she said mine was mild because I know people go through it a lot more severe than what I had. But it's called hyperemesis gravidarum. I think that's how you say it, if I'm saying it correctly. So basically what it is, it's a severe type of nausea and vomiting during pregnancy. Rarely morning sickness is so severe that it's classified as hyperemesis gravidarum. So that's basically what I had. So she prescribed me, what was it called? I forget, it was something like with a Z. Was it let me see, is it Zoltan? No, I'm tripping. It was, if I remember the medication, I'll put it in the description. Maybe somebody who's pregnant now and is experiencing it can ask their doctor if it's something that can, Zofran, that's what it was, Zofran. So she prescribed me Zofran. The Zofran didn't really work. Let me just say that. They had me take Pepcid because I would kind of have like heartburn, and they were thinking like it was indigestion, and things like that. That didn't really work. So throughout my second, so a little bit of the end of my first trimester, the whole of my second trimester, and maybe a little bit towards the beginning of my third trimester, I had difficulty with foods, like not being able to eat certain foods because I'm not able to keep it down, or having that feeling like the food wants to come up. I did have heartburn here and there, like depending on certain foods that I ate and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the constant spitting and things like that. So that's what I went through, and it wasn't easy. You'll want to eat, you'll be hungry, and you're afraid of like, oh my God, if I eat this, how am I gonna feel afterwards? Because when I would throw up, it would be like not just a little it would be like I'm throwing up like a lot. So yeah, that wasn't a fun part of the pregnancy. What else did I experience? I think that was majority of what I experienced through the pregnancy that was really kind of difficult for me. I also had insomnia, I think by maybe like the middle end of my second trimester, where I would just wake up randomly at random times. Maybe I woke up to go use the bathroom and I'm not able to go back to sleep. I would just be up. I would be up for hours, maybe I'll wake up around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be up to like 9, 10 o'clock, like before I would fall asleep again. And it would happen constantly. So that was another thing, because people always say like, sleep now, because once that baby gets here, you're not gonna have any sleep, which is very, very true. So it was like my lack of sleep started early. So that was something that I dealt with. I have everything that I dealt with written down here. Also, I had gestational hypertension towards the end of my pregnancy, and that wasn't fun either. It kind of led to the experience of how I gave birth, me having gestational hypertension. I don't know how that came about, because I wasn't carrying that much weight. I actually lost weight, a lot of weight in the beginning of my pregnancy, and didn't start. So I pretty much lost weight, about maybe 15 pounds. And then towards the end of my pregnancy, or getting close to the end, I gained that 15 pounds back, and then a little, like maybe 6 pounds or so on top of it. So I don't know how the gestational hypertension came about, but it came about, and that takes me into the childbirth experience that I had. On my last prenatal appointment, they took my high blood pressure and felt that it was kind of higher than what it was supposed to be. So they decided to keep me and admit me so that they could start the process of inducing me for labor. So weeks prior, I think when I got to about 35 or 36 weeks, that they, kept trying to say like, okay, I'm having gestational hypertension. It may turn into preeclampsia. Let's induce. They actually wanted to induce me at 37 weeks. And I was just like, No, because I would also monitor my blood pressure at home as well too, and I would get good readings. It was only when I went to the doctor's office that I would get elevated readings, and I'm just like, let me just try to keep her in there until she's full term, at least 39 weeks or whatever. If I had to induce, I just didn't want to induce her at 36, 37 weeks. So on my last, her due date was February 12th. My last prenatal appointment was February 9th. So on that day we went in, I got an elevated reading, and they decided to admit me so we could go ahead and induce. But at the time when they admitted me, when they triaged me, they do this heart trace thing with your baby. Let me not say at all appointments. They do it mostly. I believe it's in triage. Mainly like if you have to go do a stress test to see how baby is tolerating inside the womb and everything like that. They'll normally do the heart trace. So because I was triaged again, they did the heart trace with the baby. And they kept saying like her levels, like it wasn't fluctuating like how they needed it to be, that there were levels where it was flat, and things like that. And then when they got her on the ultrasound, she wasn't as active. So they, were speculating that something could be going on. So they began to induce me. I think they wanted to. It's such a blur because so many things were happening at once. But I think they inserted me with the balloon, and then they gave me, was it Pitocin? It might have been Pitocin. I can't recall. But they started with that, and I started having slight contractions. Although I was contracting a little bit before they started it. But once they started that process, if you hear baby talk in the background, that's my baby. But they started with that process, which kind of increased the intensity of the contractions a little bit. But I was still nowhere near time to push or anything like that. So because the heart trace wasn't looking how they wanted it to look, and for the fact that each time I had a contraction, they were saying that it looks like the baby's heart rate would decelerate each time I had a contraction, they felt that she would not be able to hold on long enough for vaginal delivery, and that she wouldn't be able to tolerate the stress of it. So that's when the delivery doctor came in and was like, I think we're definitely gonna have to go the route of the C-section. So it's up to you, talk it over with your husband, with your spouse, and you guys decide and let me know what you want to do. But we don't think that there's much time. So I had to, make the rush decision to, okay, go ahead, because I had been trying to avoid a C-section at all costs. But I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and do this if it's gonna mean getting the baby out safely. So of course I opted in for epidural. So that's what we're gonna kind of transition into, is my epidural experience. So the epidural experience was terrible. Let me just put it like that. It was terrible. They take you into the operating room where of course they're gonna cut you open, to get the baby out. They have you sit on the table. They have you hunch over, like arch your back, have your shoulders up, so that they can go ahead and inject the medication into your spine. So you're sitting on the table. You're like how I'm sitting down on a chair, but the table is much more high up. So my legs were dangling, and then I'm sitting like this, they're holding a pillow. So it was pretty uncomfortable, especially being 39 weeks pregnant, as heavy as I wasn't too heavy, but all the added weight and things like that. So it was pretty uncomfortable. I sat on that table for about 30 plus minutes because for some reason the anesthesiologist wasn't able to find the space where he needed to inject the medication into. So he was actually prodding around in my back with the needle. That part was painful. It was so uncomfortable. It felt like somebody was crushing my bones. Y'all give me 1 second. I gotta get my baby. Hey, mama. So So that was pretty painful, with the anesthesiologist poking around in my back for so long, having to sit in that uncomfortable position for so long. And then already, because this was my husband and I's first child. This was a new experience to us. And then it was during the pandemic as well. So it was just us two. We've never experienced childbirth. We don't know the ins and outs of, what could happen, what could go wrong, things like that. And not being able to have family around, my nerves were already going crazy, especially because the epidural process was taking so long. It was making me feel like something was wrong. So, and at one point I was thinking, if he's not able to inject me with the epidural, what am I gonna do? Because I'm not gonna be able to tolerate this if they have to do a C-section without any pain medications. So the anesthesiologist was like, he thinks he got the space. He's just gonna go ahead and inject it, and we're gonna test and see if it works, if I go numb. So I did start to go numb in certain areas, but it was weird. It was like my stomach, where they were supposed to cut, that's where I could feel the sharpest pain. But everywhere else, lower body, upper body, arms and stuff like that, were a little bit numb. So I think they made a hasty decision to go ahead and sedate me. Nobody was really talking to me, trying to tell me what was going on. It was like they were just going back and forth, trying to make the decisions on their own. So I think they made the quick decision to sedate me, since the epidural wasn't working how they wanted it to do. So that was pretty scary, because at one point, first of all, I think the room itself, the operating room itself, is freezing cold. And after I got the epidural, I don't know if it was from the epidural or if it was from the room being so cold, I started shaking violently, shaking, shivering, and I kept telling the delivery doctor, I'm shaking. Is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal? Are you guys going to be able to cut me if I'm shaking like this? And, she kept trying to reassure me that it's normal. It's fine. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to get the baby out. You're going to be fine. Everything like that. So, they finally sedate me. At the point where they get ready to sedate me, I think maybe I started to have anxiety, because I was just feeling, I don't know, I just had this very overwhelming feeling. I could literally feel my heart beating out of my chest. So I was just like, no, something's not right, something's not right. So then they put a mask over my face, and then that was it. I was gone. I saw a white light, and that was it. I was gone. I think it got to a point, because when I was out, I promise you, because during my whole third trimester, I was binge watching Grey's Anatomy. As I was sedated, I was seeing Grey's Anatomy characters. I was talking to them. I don't know what was going on. I couldn't see anything that was going on in the operating room. I don't know when they brought her out, anything like that. So all of a sudden I started, I don't know how long it took, but all of a sudden I came to. So immediately I came to, I could see the room again. I could see the doctors, and I'm like, where's my baby? Where's my baby? Is my baby okay? Does she have hair? Is she pretty? Things like that. So it was a pretty crazy, wild experience, because while I was out, I don't know what was happening, how long it took. I didn't get, some C-section experiences, they put a sheet up, they take the baby out, they bring the baby over the sheet for you to see. But I wasn't, I was sedated. So I wasn't in the right mind or whatever to process any of that. So, after the C-section, of course, they, take me to recovery and everything like that. With the baby, I got to see my baby for the first time, kiss her and everything like that. So that part of the experience was good. So after that, I was released from the hospital 2 days later. Yeah, so I stayed in the hospital about 2 days, because I was fine, she was fine. The reason why they had to go the route of the C-section, the reason why her heart trace wasn't looking good when they were monitoring it, was because she had a bowel movement in the womb. So what they call it is meconium. So she had swallowed some meconium in the womb, which is why her heart trace was doing what it was doing. So of course they got her out in time, suctioned her, everything like that. Everything was fine, no complications from that. What I've read is that it normally happens like in the third trimester, like once you're full term. Sometimes they don't know why it happens, but sometimes the baby just has a bowel movement and ends up, swallowing meconium in the process. So that was the reason we had to get her out like that. So that was that experience. Let me see what else I wrote down here. Okay. So after I had been discharged to go home, cleared to go home with baby and everything like that, of course the process becomes overwhelming because now you're not sleeping, you're around the clock with this baby, you're breastfeeding, you're pumping, you're trying to take care of yourself. Maybe, they released you on pain medications. You have to take them at a certain time every day. Like, you have to remember all these things. You have to get their birth certificate, social security, get them on your insurance, things like that. It's a lot that hits you right after you give birth. And then I had lost my mom when I was about 4 to 5 months pregnant. And then I have sisters, but they live in another state. So it was kind of like just me, my husband, and the baby. And then especially because it was a pandemic, no really outside help. So I think it got to a point where it was overwhelming. So I ended up having an anxiety attack, was rushed to the emergency room after that. After the anxiety attack, I just kept feeling like, no, something's wrong. Rushed back to the hospital to be readmitted for preeclampsia. So they kept me in the hospital for about 2 more days, I believe, and they did a treatment. It's a magnesium drip, so it's basically like an IV, and there's a magnesium drip that drips into you for 24 hours, and it sucks. You feel this is like a hangover times 20. Like, I felt sick. I was going through the process of having hot flashes. I would get really, 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 really hot. Then I would get really, 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 really cold. Like, it just kept being up and down, up and down. I could barely sleep because I was so scared. I was so frightened because, of course, I'm a Black woman, African American. We know the statistics out there, as far as the childbirth experience with Black women versus white women and things like that. And it being my first time, I was just completely nervous about the possibilities of what could happen or what could go wrong. So I was treated for that. I was released from the hospital, and basically how the doctor summed it up was, it's just your hormones. Your hormones, your body's trying to get used to the fact that you were pregnant for 9-10 months or whatever, all those hormones surging through your body, and now you're not pregnant no more. Your body is just trying to, adjust to that, things like that. Of course, they offered like behavioral health, therapy kind of thing like that. And sometimes I feel like when they bring in somebody from behavioral health or whatever to talk to you, when they're asking you questions like, do you have any thoughts of harming yourself, harming your baby, things like that, I feel like they're just trying to pinpoint of, oh, do we need to remove this baby from mom? Is she capable of taking care of her baby and stuff like that? So of course I refused anything from behavioral health or whatever, because I'm like, I'm fine. I can take care of myself. If it's hormones, if that's what y'all saying it is, then eventually like it'll get better. They also told me as well too, like, well, you're breastfeeding as well. Breastfeeding also, creates hormones or brings on hormones and things like that. So got home with baby, and things just continue like to get a little worse until I was still having hot flashes. I would still have moments where my hands and feet or my legs would go numb, or I feel like vomiting. I feel like, throwing up. I feel faint, like I'm gonna pass out, heart racing and things like that. Not being able to sleep, scared to close my eyes, and things like that, because the experience that I had with just the childbirth and getting her out was scary. It was, it was a scary thing, not knowing if you're going to make it, if your baby is going to make it. So I think that kind of triggered some trauma for me. So yeah, not knowing if you're going to make it, your baby's gonna make it. So, you know, that kind of experience, especially from the epidural having to be cut open. I've never had to be cut open for anything in my life. So the C-section was the first major surgery I've ever had to have done on my body. So I think that kind of just triggered some trauma, some anxiety, but at the time I didn't know that it was anxiety. I had never really dealt with anxiety like that. It wasn't until a family member told me, like, you know, because she also had experienced it with her childbirth experience, that, you know, this is what I went through and I think that this is what you're going through. So sorry guys, I had to get my little one. So yeah, so I had a period where I had dealt with some postpartum anxiety, you know, just being afraid, feeling overwhelmed, you know, having thoughts like, you know, am I gonna be okay? You know, am I healing properly? Is everything going the way that it's supposed to go? What's wrong, Mama? You know, is everything going the way that it's supposed to go? Things like that. So anxiety is still something that I'm battling with, that I'm still, you know, going through, but you know, it's just one day at a time, one step at a time. Anxiety is real. Postpartum depression is real. The whole postpartum period is real, which I think people are now just starting to talk about it. It's not something that's really talked about before. You kind of go through it in silence. I think part of the things that contributed to mine was the lack of people, you know, that I had around me. I didn't have an opportunity to, you know, have a house full of people, to distract me, to keep my mind off of, those thoughts of, is everything okay? Not only that, not only are you feeling overwhelmed or feeling scared about yourself, about what you just went through, but you also have a small person to care for, that you have to look after. And then newborns go through this, what, mama? You sleepy? Come on. You sleepy? Come on, mama. Shh. Got you. Shh. Yeah, so postpartum, is real. Anxiety is real. Even anxiety that doesn't occur after childbirth. Like, people could just have anxiety for different reasons. All those things are real. People experience them in their own different way. And then with pregnancy too, what do you want, please? So postpartum is real. Anxiety is real. Some of the things that I dealt with, or some of the triggers that I had, is especially right after I gave birth. People will call left and right, how's the baby? What did you have? Did you have vaginal? Did you have C-section? How many pounds was she? How long did you stay in the hospital? People will bombard you with questions just because, they're excited. They want to know about your experience and things like that. But some of those things, some of those questions that I was being asked would trigger, my anxiety. I'll start talking about it and I will feel myself, getting overwhelmed. I will start to get like hot flashes, which is one of the symptoms of anxiety, or I will start to feel numb, and things like that. Just because I kept having to talk about the experience, and the experience was a little bit traumatic for me. If you're a first-time mom, if you're a second-time mom, third-time mom, or whatever, it's very important to just take time for, yourself. If you have to leave your phone, leave people on ice for a while or whatever, to get accustomed to that new life, to that new baby, because there's so many things that come with having a baby, come with childbirth. Not just the fact that you had a baby, but so many other factors that you have to deal with. You had a life before you had that baby. That life still continues. That life will still be going on. You have to do things to, to tend to that life, to tend to, your new baby's life and everything like that. So it can be a very overwhelming experience, being able to identify your triggers or know that this is anxiety that I'm going through. So these are the ways that I need to deal with it, or these are the things that help me to relax or whatever. I didn't know about that. Like I said, this is my first child. I've never experienced, anything like this before. So, and I felt like the hospital didn't give me the education that I needed to kind of, deal with it properly or deal with it better. They just summed it up under, oh, it's just hormones. Your body is just trying to adjust to you having hormones up here, and now your hormones, are back down there. So I didn't really know that it was anxiety. It was a thing of the brain. It was the thing of the mind, and it was fears that was making me have these symptoms of numbness or racing heart, or hot flashes, or just, the feeling of fear or feeling doomed. But nonetheless, I'm grateful, that I got to experience pregnancy, that, I got to experience childbirth, that God actually saw me fit to give me a life to be responsible for. It's not easy. I want to give all mothers a word of encouragement, whether you're a mother of one, mother of two, mother of five, whether you're a stepmom or whether you're a mother figure. I just want to say, kudos to you guys. You guys are amazing. Women are amazing. The things that a woman's body can do is amazing. To be able to carry life is not an easy thing. To be able to carry life and then give life, after the fact, is not an easy thing to do. It changes your body completely. It changes your mental completely. It just changes who you are completely. So on this Mother's Day, I just want to give a shout out to all moms, even people looking for fruit of the womb, people that want to get pregnant. I pray that God answers your prayers, answers your heart's desires, because she was once a prayer before she got here, as well too, and God answered those prayers. I prayed for her, God answered, God blessed me, God granted me. So I pray the same for people who are struggling with getting pregnant, or who are just deciding that they want to get pregnant, who are just starting to try to get pregnant, that hopefully that journey is successful for you. Hopefully you have the right tools in your corner for you to be able to navigate your pregnancy journey, your childbirth journey, and just shout out to all moms, all over the world. Happy Mother's Day. I am back officially, so hopefully I'll be able to put out more videos on a weekly basis. I'm really hoping to jump back into my YouTube channel, how I was. I think it's actually been up to a year since I've started. So I hope to get right back into it, put more makeup tutorials out there for you guys, more worship videos, more videos like this where I talk about experience, life experience and things like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.